Up until now, it's been kind of difficult to put out a podcast. Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, it's free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. No joke, it's that easy. Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. And get this, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey guys, how are you? So happy Saturday. This is a bonus episode. So what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is adding in a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. I think Jeffrey Gitomer is one of the best sales trainers and sales minds in the business and has been for a really long time. So this week I answer or actually give you Jeffrey's answers on how to recognize buying signals, what's the best time to ask for the sale, what's the difference between a stall and an objection, what are the 3 dumbest questions in sales, and how can I prevent objections from occurring? So I hope you love it. Don't forget, we're always selling. So yeah, listen, take notes, go sell stuff. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. How do I recognize buying signals, and what is the most powerful buying signal? The link between the presentation and the close are buying signals given by your prospect. As a professional salesperson, your job is to recognize a buying signal and convert it into a sale. Recognizing is the hard part. Recognizing signals to buy is one of the art areas in the science of selling. Listen to the buyer. He or she will give you signals. As you give your presentation, the buyer will gesture, question, play with your product, or in some way communicate that he is inclined to purchase. When you hear a buying signal, that's your signal to ask for the sale. Rule of thumb: any question asked by the prospect must be considered a buying signal. The most powerful buying signal is when your prospect asks, "How much is it?" It means you have piqued enough interest to get the prospect to think ownership and want to know how affordable it is. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. What is the best time and the best way to ask for the sale? To get the sale, you must ask for it. Yes, Jeffrey, you say, but when do you ask? What's the perfect time to ask? How do I know? No one knows that except you. I can only tell you it's a delicate combination of the prospect's buying signals and your gut feeling. How to ask and what to ask are easier to define than when to ask. Since the ask is a critical part of the sale, you'd better be prepared with a number of options for the how and what part. Important note: here's what never to ask. What will it take for me to get your business? Or, what will it take to earn your business? That's an insult question. Great salespeople figure out what it takes and then do it. More important note: many salespeople are ask reluctant. I refer to them as sales chickens. If this is you, just realize the worst that can happen when you ask is that the prospect says no, which to any good salesperson means not yet. Big deal. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. What is the difference between a stall and an objection? Two answers. A stall is, I want to think about it, or I have to meet with other people. An objection is, your price is too high, or we have a satisfactory supply. Both are put-offs, which basically say, you haven't sold me. Maybe they perceive too high a risk. Maybe they think they can get it someplace cheaper. Maybe they don't have enough confidence in you to go forward. Maybe they are not the decision maker. You haven't proven enough value. You haven't shown enough difference between you and your competition. And you certainly have not gained the trust of the buyer to invest his money in your product or your service. Most salespeople are foolish enough to take a stall or an objection as the real reason for a sale not moving forward. Objections or barriers of any kind are an indication from the customer that they want to buy. They just may not want to buy from you. Even if a customer says, I'm not interested, probably the most classic turn-off objection other than slamming the phone down or throwing you out, it's an indication that you have not engaged them. The bottom line is conversion. You have to convert their lack of confidence, their lack of trust, and their lack of perceived value into a sale. Final answer. A stall is easier to convert. An objection may take a bit of work, but both must be qualified as the real reason for not purchasing now. Most are false reasons. The master salesperson must ask why these are occurring to get the real sales block. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. What are the 3 dumbest questions in sales? Third dumbest, have you ever heard of us? If you have to ask this question, it means you're probably trying to make certain that your prospect has not had a bad experience or knows anything bad about you. Your reputation will generally arrive before you do. If something bad has happened in the past, your prospect will bring it up. If you have to ask this question, you're probably not very well known anyway. Second dumbest, can you tell me a little bit about your company? This question means that you were either too lazy or too stupid to go to the internet and find out about them. Don't ask any questions that you couldn't have gone on the internet and found out the answer to yourself. When you force your customer to answer questions already known, they become bored and disengaged. It is potentially the poorest reflection on you. And now, the granddaddy of all stupidity, the dumbest question in sales. You should know it, you ask it all the time. What will it take to get your business? It's most likely that you have asked this question dozens of times, and all you're asking the prospect is, how low do you want me to drop my pants, price, in order to get this order? Now let me ask you a question. Have you been in sales for longer than 1 week? Don't you know what it will take to get their business? And wouldn't it be 1,000 times better for you to walk into a sales call and say, Mr. Jones, I've been talking to your people, your customers, and your vendors, and I believe I've uncovered exactly what it will take to get your business. I'm going to run a few ideas by you, and all I ask is, if you like the ideas, that we begin doing business with one another. Fair enough? If you walk in asking what it will take to get their business, you will either leave empty-handed or you will get the order but have no profit. Either way, you're a loser. If you walk in knowing what it will take to get their business, it's most likely you will walk out with the order. Here's the big secret. Knowing what it will take to get someone's business is one of the least used and most powerful techniques to getting new business. Your job is not to use this technique. Your job is to master it. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. How can I prevent objections from occurring? Answer: cover them in your presentation. You have not had a new objection since your career began. You already know the 10 objections your customer is going to throw at you. I'm satisfied with who I've got. Your price is too high. My home office handles that, and other lame customer excuses ad nauseum. You have two choices when preventing an objection. Number one, somewhere in your presentation you say, "You know, Mr. Prospect, a lot of people tell us our prices are too high before they become customers. I would like to share a few testimonials with you before we get too deep into our conversation. These are people who thought our prices were too high initially, bought anyway, and have been our customer for years." Number two, try to prevent it yourself. "You know, Mr. Prospect, some people tell me that my prices are too high, but it's because they don't quite understand the full value of our product, which over time is actually lower in cost. I'll demonstrate this a little later, but please have confidence that I would not be so foolish as to waste your time if I were not the best value." Either one of these preventions will work. Final answer. Personally, I believe the testimonial to be the strongest sales tool you can possess. Either way, your job is to identify the 10 most common objections that you get, create the best responses for them, and figure out how to put them in your sales presentation so that at the end, you're more likely to get a signature on a contract. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Daily Business Podcast with Mitch Alverson. If you got time, please subscribe to the podcast and consider rating and reviewing the show. That way, other people will find us. By the way, I really love to hear from you guys, so please email me at mitch@3advisors.org with your feedback or questions. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Business Podcast with Mitch Alverson.